and seeing if they're spending Champions League money or Europa League money in the market.
It could be a tense old night. Kick-off is just 7 minutes away. Let's then hear from Brendan Rodgers. He spoke with the media yesterday.
Don't worry about failing, worry about performance. If you think so much of the consequence, then it can paralyse you. And that's not something we want to do. We have to play our game, play the football that we've played in a lot of the league games this year, and if we can take that into the game, then we've got a fantastic chance of qualification. But like I said, if you overthink it, and I felt we probably maybe did that a little bit in the first half, where you overthink it, so then you don't play with freedom. So you have to go into these games. We know what's at stake. It's very clear. The only way you get to where you want to get to is by playing how we want to. And I think in terms of the season so far, I think the players have done very, very well. Played as well as we probably possibly could, apart from that first half last week. Control games, defend it very, very well, and some of them have scored goals. So we all know where we want the squad to be, but the value I have for the players that are here is very much there, because they've done very well and started the season well. And of course there's noise around the outside and other things, but it doesn't affect us and how we train and how we work and how we prepare. There's no excuse for us, especially when you see how well KAIRAT worked last week. So they had the same journey going the other way. But that won't be an excuse for us. And I think we all feel fine, we feel great. We're on our own time zone, and like I say, we'll prepare, and there'll be no excuse.
Celtic in the Uefa Champions League playoff round.
Live on Sports Sound.
From BBC Radio Scotland.
Brendan Rodgers there, John. Was he right in going public with his frustrations? Have the club taken an unnecessary gamble not getting players in before this crucial tie, which they've known was coming for a long, long time?
I think in the ideal world we've got 3 good signings in, but it's not as easy as people think. I'm sure Celtic have made bids, they've had their targets, and the selling clubs obviously have been asking for too much money. And that's always a challenge. Do you pay over the odds for somebody? Do you pay over the odds in wages and salary? Celtic don't do that. Celtic throughout the years, they like value for money. They've bought cheap, they've developed players, they've sold them on. The fans want players in, the manager wants players in, and they should have been in. They should have been in, there's no doubt about it.
They should have been in, but again, Engels on the bench, 11 million, Ida on the bench, 9 million, Bernardo on the bench, 3.5 million-ish. Trusty not fit, but would have been on the bench, 6 million. All Brendan Rodgers signings.
Well, that tells you the board don't want betting again. They've seen that last year. They've paid over the odds for those players. So
who's that on though? Who's that on? The manager?
To be honest, I don't really know. Like we said after the game last week, I don't think anyone really knows the dynamics of what's going on at the club. And when obviously the manager's coming out and speaking quite publicly about the squad and how we need to add to the squad, but I think it's quite glaring for everyone. I mean, he's backed up himself saying the squad is good enough to get through this tie, but I think everyone knows that there certainly needs additions to be competitive in the Champions League, if that's that's the aim for the club, of course.
Well, the players are coming out. Let's cross to the ground in Kazakhstan. Our reporter Brian McLaughlin is there. Good evening to you, Brian. Set the scene for us. What sort of conditions will Celtic face tonight?
Yes, good evening, Kenny. You can hear the Champions League music blasting out here over the Central Stadium. The atmosphere inside this arena is fantastic. The whole city is really taken to this game. The interest is huge. For KAIRAT, this is the biggest game in the club's history. Huge, obviously, financial rewards if you reach the Champions League. For Celtic, it's all about winning this game. To try and maintain their place in the Champions League. For KAIRAT, well, there's massive interest in this game. You can hear the roar as the teams come out, Kenny. I've never experienced an atmosphere like this. Not just now, but in the build-up to the game. 3 hours before kick-off, the place was on fire. It's going to be a fantastic event. I'm hoping that Celtic, obviously, we're all hoping that Celtic can get through this tie. So this is a pressure tie here tonight for Brendan Rodgers and these players. KAIRAT fancy themselves tonight. Let battle begin.
Can't wait. The players are out there. They're all very, very focused. We're seeing Callum McGregor on our screen right now. A few hundred Celtic fans. Well done to them. They've made that very long journey out there. Kick-off is fast approaching. Just 2 minutes away, guys. You fancy Celtic to get the job done tonight?
I do. I watched the game last week. I think the opponents were organised, but I've never seen any really dangerous players. probably the best player, is suspended, number 9. So that's good news for Celtic. Celtic can play much better than they did last week. Wider areas have got to do more. James Forrest and Yang, really important tonight.
No, I totally agree, John. I think we've seen obviously a difference in the tempo as soon as Yang came on the second half. It kind of faded after 10-15 minutes, but I think everybody left that game last week knowing that Celtic can play far better than that. It was a okay performance in terms of it's 0-0, so the tie wasn't lost, but it's all to play for. It's a one-off tie.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be boring, but I'd agree with the lads. I think Celtic should have enough. As John says, we saw a lot of defensive resilience from KAIRAT last week. We didn't see anything offensively. We don't know how good they are. They might surprise us, but I think Celtic just to get over the line.
Celtic fans, have a wee look at the BBC Sports Scott website. Brian's got a story on there about some new signings. We'll discuss that with the guys at half-time in this game, but time now to sit back and enjoy the action. It's KAIRAT Almaty against Celtic for a place in the Champions League with John Collins, Aidan McGeady and Alistair Lamont.
Thanks, Kenny. Yeah, the enormity of this game cannot be overstated. A Celtic victory sets him up beautifully for another positive season. Lose and a simmering disquiet could boil over with prestige and bundles of cash at stake. The tie could not be more finely balanced after last week's Celtic Park stalemate, and so Brendan Rodgers' side have to produce a win tonight, something Celtic have been unable to do on their 3 previous visits to Kazakhstan, though they have prevailed in each of the 3 ties. The home side, KAIRAT, going into a Celtic-style huddle in front of a packed stadium, as Brian describes, largely open to the elements. It's around about 22 degrees still, 9:45 at night local time. But Celtic more than used to playing in such conditions on their travels over the years, and they need to come up with another big result. It's a while since they have won on the road in Europe, but as we saw in the first leg, they should be more than capable of dealing with the Kazakhstan champions, as the players now just make their way into the position, just about ready to get underway. As I mentioned previously, the officials are Italians and we're off and running, as immediately Celtic try to come forward down the left-hand side. It's too high though for Yang, and the home side, who are just off the top of the league just at the moment with half a dozen games remaining in their domestic season, looking to retain the title and win it for a 5th time. But as Brian said, this is the biggest game in the club's history. It's by far the furthest they've been in Champions League qualifying, and they themselves are just a win away from taking their place in the league stage. But clearly Celtic hope to be the ones who prevail in this one, as Scales picks up possession just inside his own half, left-hand side, just plays it short to Tierney. Tierney clips it down the left, rather aimless one, and that'll be an easy take for Temirlan Anarbekov, the 21-year-old who came on at Celtic Park after the first choice keeper was injured, and Celtic will look to be putting him under a bit of pressure early doors to see what exactly he's made of. As forward now for the first time come KAIRAT down that right-hand side, kept in on the right flank, but Tierney does well to win possession deep in his own territory, gets the ball forward. KAIRAT try and keep it alive, but it's nodded out of play just in front of Brendan Rodgers' technical area, and it'll be left for Tierney here to take the throw-in. Marinsky it was, just trying to keep the ball in play, managed to do so, but only for the benefit of Tierney, who now has the